Just today, it has been announced that the 15 months wait-out period is finally out. Just as I was reconnecting with some of my clients who have been waiting for this news so that they can downsize from their condo to a HDB, right? I actually realized that there is one common thing that usually people will think about is there will be more demand for HDB prices and HDB prices will go up. So in this video, I'm going to dive deep into why this particular policy is going to benefit some of you out there and also why it might be bad news for some of you as a HDB owner today. This topic is actually no stranger in my channel because I've done 3 videos within the last year to explain about how the HDB policies is going to impact you. And in fact, did you know that just 4 months ago, I already told you that this is going to happen? And if you have been following my channel, you would have already prepped yourself and done whatever is necessary before the next wave. We want to understand why the 15 months wait-out period was implemented, particularly during COVID. That period of time, there was a halt in all the construction works, causing in a lot of delays in the private and HDB segment. Back then during COVID, when a lot of people is working from home, a lot of people value big spaces. So that is why we do see that there was a big surge of people buying 5-room and above HDB flats. During those period of time between 2021 to 2022, there was a record-breaking number of $1 million HDB flats. And as a result, it drive up the demand in the HDB flats as well. A second source of where the price surge was actually from private condo downgraders. So this group of people probably sold their big landed or their big condo to downsize into a prime or big size HDB. As a result, demand increased, prices went up by so much over those few years, and that is why the government had to step in to put in this 15 months wait-out period where they are restricting everyone who is looking to downsize from a private to a HDB flat. I will link my playlist on the HDB series that I have done to explain why is this happening, how does it impact you. And if you look at this newspaper article this morning, you will notice that the government have saw the prices slowing down. In fact, it has already seen 2 consecutive quarters where the resale prices index have fell, and also expecting a large amount of new HDB flats completing their MOP. And in particular, when we are looking at the HDB flats, 2026, just this year alone, we are expecting 13,000, subsequently 15,000 and 19,000 year on year respectively. So with such a huge pool of BTO supply and buyers in the resale market having a lot of choices to choose from, so our government's plan is always thinking in the perspective of ensuring that public housing is affordable to most of us Singaporeans, which is already taking effect. To give you perspective of the impact of removal, in the past, the old policy would mean that anyone who want to downsize from a private condo to a HDB, they would have to wait 15 months before they are able to do so. Even if you are 55 years old and above, you can buy a HDB flat almost immediately, but you are still only entitled to buy a 4-room and smaller HDB flats. So now, because of the lifting of this cooling measure, anybody, even the 55 years old and above, can buy all types of HDB flats, including 5-room, EM, and EA. And why is it important? Did you know that this whole policy is going to cause a whole ripple effect to a few groups of people? Like what I mentioned just now, these private downgraders, there is no size cap. And cash-rich people, usually they will either go for very, very good location or they will likely choose a big HDB flats or both. And in this context, these cash-rich people, now they have choices to downsize to a big HDB flat. And if you are a HDB owner of such category of very big HDB flats, you are like the biggest winner in the whole impact of this removal of wait-out period. That is why why I feel that this whole policy, the impact drives stronger negatively to those who own a smaller HDB, particularly the 3-room and 4-room flat owners. 4-room flat owners, before the lifting of this policy, you would realize that there is still a lot of people who are looking to downsize. They don't want to wait for the 15 months wait-out period to choose your 4-room HDB flat. But because this window is now open, this is where you will see that it is getting harder for you to sell your HDB flat. Not only that, because you are squeezed by this additional thing called the BTO supply, where the government is pushing in a lot of BTO set to complete within these few years. So when buyers have choices to choose between resale HDB flats that could cost a few $100,000 more than what a brand new HDB flat is, that's where demand will start to be diluted. And this is why if you are owner of 4-room HDB flat, it is important for you to monitor the supply that is upcoming in your area. Most likely you will find that it gets very hard. Selling takes very long, or the buyers who come in, they want to negotiate. They want to ask for a bigger discount off your selling price. As for the 3-room flat owners, as compared to the 4-room flat owners, you do have some sort of impact, but it is not the biggest as compared to what the 4-room flat owners is. Because based on a 3-room flat, it is usually not the condo or private downgraders target. But in a whole broader MOP supply, you are still exposed and still impacted, but it really depends on the supply in your area as well. If you're a first-time buyer who is particularly aiming for such a big unit, right, now your shield is some sort of gone due to the wait-out period being removed. So you do want to consider, because when you buy into such big units, chances of you overpaying for a HDB unit gets very high. And this is usually a case where I feel it gets very risky if you are looking at a resale flat. And that's why we are going to the next important portion, which is based on the current policies. How do you as a buyer actually leverage to benefit from this? So the first strategy that I'm going to share with you is based on swapping to a bigger HDB flat. This is no stranger if you have been following my content, because I do realize that the supply versus demand comparing from a 4-room flat to a 5-room flat is very different. So on top over here, we are looking at all the transactions that have happened. There are 57,000 HDB flats that are 4-room that has been transacted, versus there is 33,000 of 5-room flats being transacted. If we are talking of a ratio, that is equivalent to every 2 4-room HDB being transacted, 1 5-room has been transacted. So volume is less by 2 times for a 5-room flat. But if you're looking at the supply, this is where we want to pay attention to, because upcoming the BTOs that have been launched over the past few years, it is 1:3, where 5-room flats only saw about 3,100 units been launched, comparing to 4-room flats that is 3 times more, about 9,000 plus over the past few years. In short, we do see that 4-room flats, there are so many units to choose from, versus for 5-room flats, there are 3 times lesser to choose from. So when I'm talking about property prices, supply and demand, it is quite logical to say that the 5-room flats tend to be in demand for the next few years. And this is also very clear now when you're talking about the wait-out period. Why is it that the government limited 55 years old and above to only be able to buy 4-room and below, and not 5-room and above? So for me, my biggest advice for you is, if you currently own a 4-room flat, swap to a 5-room flat or a bigger HDB flat. And this will help you to protect your profits better as compared to in the next few years, where we do see there is so much supply that is upcoming in terms of BTOs, plus the number of applications that are upcoming. Strategy number 2 is to swap to areas that are near the Prime and Plus HDB or MRT. There is this particular news article that just came up in March 2026 this year, and it shows that HDBs that are nearer to MRT tend to be more expensive as compared to those that are further away from MRT. For perspective, will there be anybody in 20 years time, 30 years time not want to stay near MRT? I guess not, right? There will always be people who wants to stay near MRT for convenience. And because of this demand that never changes, this will help you to protect your HDB prices even when the government introduce policies, even when there is a lot of BTO supply. Secondly, why I feel that moving to better locations will help to protect you in terms of your HDB prices is because of HDB Plus and Prime. In my last video, I shared with you that HDB Plus and Prime, they all have 10 years MOP. When they sell, they only can sell to Singaporeans. They have an income ceiling of $14,000. And because of all these restrictions, it means that next time when all these HDB Plus and Prime owners want to sell in the future, it will not be as easy as selling a typical resale HDB. So the best plan for you, which is what I always advise my clients, is to plan based on this. If this is HDB Plus or Prime, this is 10 years MOP and whatever restrictions that they have. Today, if you were to buy a HDB, this is only 5 years. And such resale HDBs also mean that first, PR can buy from you. You don't have any income ceiling. That means people who are like private downsize owners, they want to buy a HDB flat, will they also want to stay in good locations, which is where the Plus and Prime is ma? So if they are limited under this, they actually earn a high income. They don't want to be locked in by 10 years MOP. Where can they go? They will go to the 5 years HDB, which is located near the Plus and Prime HDBs. The most important thing that we want to do when we own a HDB flat, we must always understand the government policy. And the HDB flat that we are owning must be in a way where the government policy is pushing the buyers towards us and not pushing the buyers away from us. This is the exact strategy that I use to help my clients to protect their gains. I always use this protective strategy for all of my clients because after all, HDB prices before COVID did not increase for I think 7 to 8 years. And it is due to COVID that prices have increased. And today, if you are a HDB owner who has purchased your HDB during the COVID period, you would be sitting on a very good sum of profits. And this amount of profits is something that is very precious to most of us because these profits is more than what we earn sometimes in a year, which is why I do see that it's very important for all of you to understand that in terms of HDB, we must have this protective strategy. And that is today, if you are owning a HDB flat, which is in high risk, which means what? There is a lot of same type of HDB coming up in your area. Yours is an old HDB flat, lease decay. This is your best time to sell high because we have already seen that the HDB prices have dropped for the past 2 quarters already. So most importantly, you do want to take the current time, the current market to sell when the HDB is at the youngest at its age and has much lesser supply. Because what is coming in the next 6 months to 1 year is definitely going to be much more supply, much more people looking to sell as compared to now. And after you sell, what should you do? Is to buy low. What do we mean by buy low? Buy low means first, you buy into a HDB which is in lesser supply. Because right now, the 5-room flats, there's still a lot of people who are planning to sell right now. They have not sold yet. That means the real market have not really materialized as compared to 6 months later. So this is still the best time for you to move as compared to 6 to 1 years down the road. Of course, the best time was that time when I did the video to share with you that you should move. But if you have not done so, this is probably like your last window to swap to a 5-room flat before the price increment. And the next is if let's say you currently own a HDB flat, the best way for you to protect your profits is to move to somewhere, a resale property that's near to Prime and Plus BTO flats. Because they have a lot of restrictions and they help us to minimize the competition for us. So in this way, how I see it for you is to protect your profits. And of course, if you are not so sure of how to do, you can always reach me via my contact number here, 8126-2727. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy my content. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next video.